Hey guys, this is John Rivera from the Solid State Gamer bringing you guys another installment in the Quick Look video series. Welcome back. This time around we're going to be looking at Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story Part 2 of the Blue Destiny saga. And of course I'm rocking an Action Replay 4M Plus version 2.02, and that's because this, like the first part, as well as the third part, is a Japan-only exclusive for the system. Bandai. UC 0079 01.03, the Duchy of Zeon declared war against the UNT for its independence. So-called the 1-year war began. So yeah, this is part 2 of the 3-part Blue Destiny trilogy of games released for the Sega Saturn. And as you can see, this intro cinematic, which takes the same approach as the first game's intro cinematic, being a retrospective and sort of a documentary style intro, shows not only assets from the first cinematic, but also shows captured footage of the in-engine graphics and gameplay of the first game. Now, just like part 1, this game is very much Japanese. It is still import friendly though, despite the fact that there's heavy Japanese voice dialogue and text. The game still feeds you enough visual information where you can discern your mission objectives and some of the story through the gameplay. If you want to get a specific lowdown on the story, I suggest that you go onto a fan website and check out the Blue Destiny story breakdown for pretty much understanding in its entirety what the story entails, because you're not going to get it just from the gameplay, unfortunately. And just like the first game, for some reason this FMV introduction is relegated to a fraction of the screen. Again, I'm not sure why that is, but here we have it right here. Developed by Sotsu Agency, once again in association with Sunrise and Bandai. Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story Part 2. As you can see, instead of the main Federation's troops, you're actually seeing the Blue GM, aka the Blue Destiny right here. And the intro music is pretty much the same as the first game. Let's get into the options. Difficulty, same. Sound mode, same. Sound test, same. Here we have a difference, a slight difference in the key assignment. So, like before, you have your choice of 6 different predetermined configurations, but because of the fact that this game came out months after Virtual-On Cyber Troopers, I have to assume this game came out somewhere in November or December of 1996. The Sega Saturn Twin Stick was actually commercially released and was in the market. So, as a result, this game natively supports the Twin Stick and does so impeccably well, I might add. Unfortunately, I'm not using the Twin Stick right now because I don't have any space on my desk to use it, so I'm rocking a 3D controller using the standard digital format mode or something like that. I'm not using the analog stick mode because it does not support the mode on this game, nor does it support the mode on Part 3. So I don't know why that is, because it supports a twin stick, the standard pad, but doesn't support the 3D controller natively. Very curious. Here we have another difference in the options. We have the score display. You can toggle that on or off. Now, once you select this on or off, you cannot change it in-game. So, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm going to turn it off because it just clutters up the main graphics display buffer. It's not necessary. I will be turning on the radar display, though, because that is quite necessary. It's quite helpful. And it's useful because you don't have to press pause every time you want to see how close you are to being outside the mission area. Here we have a difference. Instead of it being a 2D display for your mission briefing to see what objectives you have to accomplish, this is actually a 3D projection. It's almost like Mode 7 style. And here you see some 3D wireframe models. This is all captured in engine. It's not an FMV. It's not recorded pre-rendered video at all. This is happening live on the screen. And another difference is this anime girl or these different talking heads that appear. And the lip sync is serviceable. It's not perfect, but it could have been worse. But I think it's really impressive for these mission briefings that they captured all this in engine. What's up, Blondie? How you doing? Alright, so our objective is to defeat all enemies. So the controls are pretty much unchanged from the first game. I can move forward, backpedal, strafe left and right with the D-pad, rotate my mech, or my Gundam, left and right by pressing the shoulder buttons respectively. Vertical aiming pitch elevation is changed by pressing X. Grenades, I pop them off by pressing Y. Z now does nothing. A jumps, if I hold down jump, I can sustain my jump using my jump jets. Contributes to my temperature. And yes, you can overheat the same way you did in part 1. Tapping B fires off my blaster. Holding it down fires up my akimbo Vulcan cannons, either side of the headpiece of my mobile suit. And if I perpetually dash into an enemy, I will swipe at him with my beam sword. C locks on. And again, just like in the first game, it's a toggle. Now, as you can see in this game, you can take several swipes at your enemy with the beam sword before knocking him down, but that's from the front. If you manage to approach an enemy from behind and swipe at them with your beam sword, you actually knock them on their ass. Just saw a little slowdown. This game throws a little more at the player than the first title, so the frame rate does kind of chug in some spots. It's not egregious, but it is noticeable. And these battlefields are a lot bigger than before, as you can see right here. This is where I am. I'm the green arrow. And you can zoom in and out by pressing A and C respectively. Nice little graphical touch right there to the pause screen. Because in the first game it was just a 2D projection with sprites on it. Nothing really that special. Let's see. And you still have buildings that litter, and trucks and vehicles that litter the battlefield. You just walk over them, blow them up Godzilla style. Now, dashing in a diagonal direction actually makes you heat up a lot faster. It's kind of like a compounding multiplication effect. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but, it's there. Now you know. Knowing's half the battle. There we go. You can also dash backwards in this game. That's an aesthetic touch that they've added to it. Let's see, what else is in this level? We have some tanks that are not being manned. Some random trucks. Oh, and I am leaving the mission area. As you can see, this game is a lot more difficult. These mobile suits are a lot more aggressive than they were in the first game, and the reason why is because they, I guess, intentionally increased the difficulty level from the outset. I have to assume that's because they expect you to have played Part 1 before playing Part 2. So as a result, Part 2 starts out difficult and gets more difficult as the game progresses. No, he's guarding my attacks now. Now you can see a draw distance gaff right there. For some reason, the draw distance for missiles and blasters and stuff, it has a longer draw distance than the actual mobile suits themselves. It's kind of a weird graphical quirk. Now, in the first game, you actually encounter the Blue Destiny or Blue GM Gundam. Through the course of this game, you'll actually be able to pilot the Blue GM yourself. And of course, it gets a little deeper story-wise. I'll explain that in due time. This guy is just laying into me. Now, you play the same characters you did in the first game, Yu Kajima. And this guy's on super steroids. This guy is really fast. He's like Ivan Drago. I must break you. And admittedly, this first mission is kind of scripted, because as soon as you get low energy, the mission basically ends. Yeah. So reinforcements arrive, and he just leaves as quickly as he came. Nope. He just blipped out of existence. Now, I do understand why they didn't really make any improvements to the graphical engine or system of this game. And it's because this game's trilogy is pretty much a story-driven one. And they didn't want to worry too much about innovating too much on the graphic systems and making too many tweaks to where the games mechanically would be unrecognizable when compared to past parts or installments. So that, in a sense, is understandable. And admittedly, for the time, I mean, again, this is late 1996, the game still looks pretty impressive. I mean, it's not perfect, but it is more than serviceable. Now, here we have a cutscene basically saying that Yu Kajima is going to pilot the Blue Destiny mobile suit just after they salvaged and fixed it all up, and it uses the special exam operating system, which is unique to this mobile suit. The interesting thing about the exam operating system is that it houses the soul imprint of a woman who had worked on the project. So because of that, she's kind of ascended to a new height of existence. She's no longer a human being. She's a mix between a human being and software. And this is the guy who developed the exam operating system. And this lady's name is Marion Welch. So her earthly existence died off after the accident, but her soul imprint still remains in the circuitry of this mobile suit. And as a result, this mobile suit is overpowered. It has a lot of advantages over the regular Xeon troops. However, whoever pilots this mobile suit slowly goes insane because of the information and the contact with Marion Welch's soul imprint, which is, I guess, sensory overload, and it's too much for a normal human brain to comprehend or perceive or understand. So their brain slowly deteriorates because of the complex information being fed to the brain. So it's an interesting premise, and as you can see, my HUD, my cockpit HUD, is slightly different, and that's because I am piloting the Blue GM now.
あなたとブルーでなくてはやり遂げられない任務です。頑張ってください。
ユウ、俺だ、アルフだ。ブルーの能力を引き出せれば。
Alright. This is where the game gets extremely hard. I'm facing several mobile suits at one time.
そいつの前のパイロットはシステムが暴走して死んじまった。そう、お前たちに襲われた。
Forgive me if I don't talk much, because this mission is a doozy of a mission. Oh man, he dodged my missile. That's not good. Nice. Making good headway right now. However, I only have 5 missiles left. Now, these missiles do not lock on, unfortunately. I'm just using my blaster. Because if you miss, that is a huge price to pay. Because from the outset, you only have 8 to 10 missiles to work with. And you really have to make them all count. And get rid of these SRM racks. So those things are a pain in the butt. They just barrage you. They never let up. Please be dead. So much destruction. Alright, let's see where my enemies are. I love how graceful and fast and frenetic this game can be. Like I said, it's not like Mech Warriors 1 through 4. In this game, you have to dance around your enemy. It's not just some bombastic game that lacks grace or anything like that. I mean, it's very much a ballet, like I mentioned in the first video. Oh, goodness gracious. This guy's ridiculous. At some point, this game kind of gets a little cheap. There we go. If you don't dispatch one enemy at a time after the other, it'll pretty much be a situation where you will be looking up at the sky all the time, like this right here. Like that's ridiculous. So you really have to just move around, stick and move. Gosh, these guys are so fast. There we go. Just like in the see, this is ridiculous. See, they're just bum rushing me. Like in the first game, the beam sword is really your best friend. It's really necessary in order to kind of equal things out, to incapacitate somebody. Oh, and they're lowering me out of the battlefield, because that's real nice. That's real fair. And I believe I just wasted that missile. Not a good turn of events. Now, if you guys are looking into buying this game, I can only recommend it if you bought the first one. And the reason why is that this game is a little more difficult from the outset, and like I said, it's because this game expects you to have played the first part. Yes, there we go. Oh, I missed. Goodness gracious. Come on, come on. You can find this game on eBay, Amazon, and half.com for pretty cheap. I wouldn't expect to pay more than... Oh, you cheap bastard. Okay, as I was saying, this game, from the outset, is pretty import friendly. You can play this game without having to understand Japanese, read or or spoken. And online, you can find this game for as cheap as $10. I think at the most expensive, it gets to the $20 range. But there's no reason why you should spend more than $20 on this game. Goodness, oh, see, that's just frustrating. I'll move over here, lure him away from the boundary. Because if you get that return to mission area tone, or that pulse, or that beat, more than 3 times, the mission it's lost by default. And that's lame. But it seems like these guys are trying to lure you out to basically make you lose at a default, kind of like a ring out, like a la Virtua Fighter, which is cheap. So, but again, this game is an attempt to make things more difficult for the player from the outset, from the start. Oh yeah, whatever, I got a D, so what? But this game is pretty entertaining. Just like the first game, it's just as fun, albeit a more difficult experience. This is just an update on the whole fact that Yu Kajima is starting to feel the effects of using the mobile suit and his brain's being affected by the new type form of Marion Welch, whose soul imprint has been assimilated into the exam system. But yeah, you should be able to find this game relatively cheap. It's not extremely rare. And again, unless you have part 1, not recommended to buy this one. But if you've already taken the dive into Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story with part 1, definitely pick this game up. There's a lot of great aesthetic improvements that are in this game with the mission briefings and stuff. Maybe not in the combat zone graphics, but like I said, they're serviceable, and they're still good looking for 1996.
ブルーに搭載されたエグザムシステムは一定時間だけ機体の性能を大幅に上げることができる。今からそれを使え。それしかこの作戦を成功させる方法はないぞ。
Alright, this mission is pretty tough, so let's get down to it. A nice touch is that you automatically hop over this. Oh goodness, there we go. Yeah, a great aesthetic touch is that, or gameplay touch is that you'll just automatically jump over that wall. You don't have to press the jump button to do that. You'll just sort of automatically vault over it, and it won't do any damage to you. These guys are extremely aggressive now, keeping their guard up. Nice. I will say that maybe it's the difficulty, or maybe it's the fact that this particular mobile suit, the Blue Destiny, is built for speed and not necessarily for heavily armored combat, but your life seems to go down a lot quicker with the Blue GM. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Gosh, there's just so much happening right now. This is kind of how the end of part 1 goes down. There's just so much happening on the screen. Oh, I just collided into a sentry tower. There we go. I will say that this game is definitely heightened to pure gaming ecstasy with the twin stick. It's actually quite impressive how well the game plays with that peripheral. That's one of the reasons why I'm kind of struggling to succeed in this game. It's mostly because I've been playing this game with a twin stick, and I'm not really used to using a standard pad, so... Alright, let's try this mission one more time. Oh, boo. So, for the next quick look, I obviously will be looking at Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story Part 3. And after that, I'm not sure what I want to cover. I have been tinkering around with the idea of covering Deep Fear for the Saturn. And I don't have the European version, so I won't be playing it in English, but the voice dialogue actually is in English. And some of the item labels and names have some English elements in them, so it is somewhat import friendly. It borders on not being import friendly, but I know a little bit of written Japanese, I know a little bit of kanji and katakana where I can sort of get by. So I might take a look at that game. I do want to eventually take a look at Quake for the Saturn. Because that's actually an interesting cul-de-sac in the FPS genre, because of the fact that it really, the Sega Saturn hardware should not have been able to handle a version of Quake. And admittedly, there is no such thing as Quake 1 on PlayStation 1. Even though a lot of people thought that that platform would have been better able to handle a Quake conversion. So, and of course, Quake 64, well, it's Quake 64. It's not a very good version. Actually, in my opinion, the Saturn version is the best one out of the two home console versions. Oh goodness, I wasted a missile. Ran into a building. Great, got rid of him and that SRN rack. Yes! Alright, I think I'm doing a little better than I was at first. Knock that guy to the ground. Still got him with that missile. This guy is a pain in the butt. And he's very adept at using his beam sword. I just slashed into another mobile suit that was trying to attack. Oh, thank God. Alright, I need to back off for a sec. Now, as you can see, something I have not described is the countdown timer. The countdown timer actually indicates your mental fortitude, and when the countdown gets down to 0, it's an automatic game over because the exposure to the exam system takes its toll on your mind and basically kills you. So not only do you have to defeat all these guys without getting killed like I just did, but you have to do it before the timer hits 0. So, goodness gracious, this game is difficult. But it's a good one, and it is a title I highly recommend. So, If you guys haven't already taken the plunge into part 1, I recommend that game. And only until you've played through that game and have gotten really good at it would I suggest taking the plunge into this second part. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I'm just going to let it hit 0. Game over. And that pretty much does it for this quick look into Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story Part 2 of the Blue Destiny Saga, made by Sotsu Agency in association with Bandai and Sunrise. Made for the system as late as, I would say, Q4 1996. It's definitely a solid experience. Anyway, that does it for this quick look. As always, I'm John Rivera from the Solid State Gamer saying thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comments or suggestions or just overall criticisms, be sure to comment below this video. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for future quick look videos, as well as proto watch videos and other sorts of video features we're going to be doing for the Solid State Gamer. I have a few ideas in the works, but I've just been busy with the website and stuff. I know I say that time and time again, but it is very much true. I do a lot of the custodial work, as well as cutting and editing the ROMcast and stuff, and coming up with just overall ideas. Fortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to do written reviews, which is something that pains me, but hopefully I'll get back to that in due time. But yeah, be sure to check this out when I post it on YouTube, as well as the Solid State Gamer website called thesolidstategamer.wordpress.com. And be sure to check out our podcast that we do weekly called the Solid State ROMcast, hosted by myself and co-hosted by Mr. Off-White, and we also have some guests occasionally, like Nathan Van Dyke, our news writer, as well as other people like game journalists like Leo Milikov from GamingBolt.com. So be sure to check that out, and be sure to subscribe to the Solid State Gamer. As always, thank you guys for watching again, and I will see you guys next time.